Good morning. Good morning. Good. I make only two short announcements. Theosophical Publishing House and the bookshop at the gate. Theosophical Publishing House is at the behind the library gate. All the books for the delegates during these days are discounted 35%. Make use of it. And then we announced the first day the book published by Kerala Foundation, Theosophical Federation, of Surendra Narayan's talks, Leave Your World and Come to Ours. You can find them to be bought at the inquiry office. So these were the announcements, and now we start our symposium. Our first speaker is Ms. Padma Venkataraman. She is the elder daughter of former President of India, R. Venkataraman. She has worked in several areas to the welfare and development for the women especially. She started the concept of microcredit for the leprosy-affected colonies all over India, which helped them to take up their livelihood and improve self-confidence of their skills. She was a member of United Nations International NGO Committee on Status of Women and United Nations Women Guild. Most importantly for her being here with us now is that she is the president of the Women's Indian Association, which was founded in the premises of the T.S. Adyar in 1917, 100 years ago in May. The founders of the Women's Indian Association were Dr. Besant, Mrs. Margaret Cousins, Mrs. Dorothy Jinrayadasa, Mrs. Mahadeva Shastri, and several other active women. The centenary celebration took place in this Adyar Theatre in March this year, with the President of India as the chief guest. We are happy that the TS could offer the same place for the centenary celebration in which the Women's Indian Association was founded. Ms. Padma has much warmth in her heart for everything. I am happy to invite her to give her talk to us in this symposium, which is titled Altruistic Work of Today in the Footsteps of Annie Besant.
Very good morning to one and all. You will excuse my throat. I had a lot of problem, and I didn't want to cancel it in the last minute. I said I'll take a chance. I hope you can hear me properly. A very good morning to one and all. And ladies and gentlemen, it is really a great honor and privilege for me to stand before this august gathering to share my views on the altruistic work of today in the footsteps of Dr. Annie Besant. As it was pointed out, we have a long association with the Theosophical Society, Adyar, and Dr. Annie Besant. This is our birthplace, and Dr. Annie Besant was our first president and continued to serve as the president for 17 long years. So we are very proud to be here today, and we were very thankful to Theosophical Society for allowing us to celebrate our centenary here at our birthplace. So we are very proud to be here today. And we, the members of the Indian Association, we are, in the words of Sarojini Naidu, actually Dr. Annie Besant, she came into our midst a stranger and created for herself an honored and legitimate place in the annals of the glorious and heroic women of our race and tradition. Dr. Annie Besant had traveled extensively in India and encouraged women to join the movement to fight against not only for freedom of India, but also for freedom from several social evils, such as child marriage and Devadasi system, and so on and so forth. So much so, Mahatma Gandhi remarked once that Dr. Annie Besant had awakened Indians from their deep sleep. Margaret Cousins, a co-founder of WIA, has said, Annie Besant is the forerunner of the new age, of which already the prominent feature is the emergence of women to power in all aspects of public service. Socially and politically active leaders from north, south, east, west of India, like Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy, Sister Subbalakshmi, Mrs. Hirabai Tata, Dr. Sarojini Vardappan, Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, and many more committed leaders, they strengthened the hands of Dr. Annie Besant and worked relentlessly to bring about several social reforms. And one of the most important one is to bring women franchise. I think we were the first one to get, earlier one to get the voting right even before some of the European countries. This is a very proud moment for WIA, as we have been rendering service to humanity for past 100 years without a break or a blemish. Today our activities have expanded, ranging from promotion of literacy, facilitating skill training, assisting women's self-help groups and livelihood programs, disaster management, promotion of non-conventional energy sources, awareness program on climate change and peace and national integration. We run 32 creches, almost covering 1,000 children below the age of 5 in and around Chennai. And the children, that is the formative age, and the parents are the daily wage earners. So this is a great help for them. And we also take good care of the children in the formative age. The Cancer Institute, Adyar, WIA, one of the premier institutions for cancer care and research in Asia, was established by WIA. Cancer was a dreaded disease in those days, and people thought once you contract the disease, there is no hope for survival. Against many odds, many people were against starting a hospital exclusively for cancer. They thought it is a waste of energy and money and all that. But the leaders like Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy, Dr. Sarojini Vardappan, all of them felt that it was a need of the hour. And there were so many people. And Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy's sister herself suffered the thing because of cancer. So they took it up as a challenge. And against all odds, they worked consistently to lay the foundation for this renowned institution. We are happy to share with you that Women's Indian Association was honored by Peace Ambassador Award of 2017. We have taken up the cause of economically marginalized and socially ostracized groups of society. We strive very hard to carry forward the legacy of this legendary organization. While talking about service to humanity, it is really appropriate to contemplate on Dr. Annie Besant's views on service, duty, altruism, and spirituality. Throughout Dr. Annie Besant's teachings, the use and therefore the context of the words duty, altruism, and spirituality are quite precise, particularly when she proposes that altruism may not be spiritual expression. According to Oxford Dictionary, altruism means regard for others as a principle of action. About altruism, Dr. Besant says, I quote, altruism, glorious as it is in the lowest stage of morality, altruism itself is lost in the supreme oneness of the human soul, in the absolute indivisibility of the spirit in man. In the words of Dr. Besant, as long as service is consciously the service of others, that is, of others separated from our own self, there is still incompleteness in the ethics, and there is still lack of spirituality in the soul. According to her, the spiritual man must lead a higher life than the life of altruism. Having said that, she realized that man has not reached that stage of oneness, and till we reach that stage, she says, while we are still consciously separate, altruism may rightly be regarded as the law of life. Further, she expounds, learn then that the services demanded is that unselfish service that gives everything and asks for nothing in return. Dr. Besant firmly believes that the theosophic life must be the life of service. Unless we are serving, we have no right to live. And she said, I proclaim tonight the universal law of life, for only by service is fullness of life made possible. I would like to conclude with a quotation from Mahatma Gandhi, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Once again, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Padma Venkataraman. Informative and also very spiritual ending and thoughts for us to think further. Now the next speaker. Our next speaker is Vinay Kumar Patri. He comes from the theosophical family. He's the son of late Sri G.K.R. Patri, a veteran theosophist and philosopher. Vinay joined the TS very young and contributed to the Youth Lodge and the Round Table. His academics is Master's in Commerce, Diploma in Business Administration, and a Fellow from Insurance Institute of India. His professional experience is in insurance and information technology industry. He has received award for creating unique concepts and contributions made in intellectual property building and patents filed in several countries. He has also received awards as a best trainer from the IT organizations. He is invited to this symposium because he works for the TS humbly in many ways, like in the archives, and he takes care of the great Banyan Audiovisual Center, which gives documents and movie evenings at times in the headquarters hall. He is also connected to the ritual of the mystic star, which we saw in the first day of this convention evening, and which celebrates its centenary this year. Again, I'm happy to invite one more altruistic worker to give a talk.
Yeah, that's good. Good morning, brethren. It's a great privilege for me to be before you this morning. Let me begin the subject with the term altruism and check how it is defined in the dictionary. It is published as the principle or practice of unselfish concern for or devotion to the welfare of others. It is also given as an opposite to egoism. And it is interesting to see down below the dictionary one more additional explanation, which says the behavior of animal that may be to its disadvantage, but that benefits others of its kind. There is also an example that says a warning cry of an approaching predator, but that reveals the location of the caller. The monkey cries out very loud of approaching danger to ensure the safety of its family, but eventually it gives away its location. It is not foolish that to give away its location, but yet it would do so. So, but let's begin inquiry into the behavior of animals first, and let's see if altruism exists in nature, starting with animals. Well, there seems to be a proof. I have a few collection of video clips where animals have shown exemplary proof that more technology, more problems. Anyway, I will allow that dog to be saved in time, but what happens here in the video is that there is a dog that is saved by another dog just in time, and there is a chimpanzee which lifts a small bird from the pond, and there is also there is a clip that shows a small Nemo fish struggling for its survival, and the cat comes and then saves it. I would allow just this clip to pass through, and then we can continue. Just in time. Anyway, so these are the clips where there is actually in the deep water there is a deer that is being saved by a dog. Perhaps the dog is trained, but the dog saves the deer and ensures its safety, and it also tries to give a little bit of CPR to that, giving a nudge here and there. All right. So there are a few clips like this, but let me proceed. There are several research initiatives that have taken on animal altruism. To quote one, researchers at the laboratory of University of Pierre and Marie Curie and Royal Holloway College of London explain about the altruistic behavior of animals. So what they seem to conclude is that in nature, animals have a tendency to cooperate with each other, and they are genetically predisposed in this direction of this type of behavior. Though this contradicts with the Darwin's theory of evolution that predicts a better survival of the most fittest or selfish of animals, a mathematical modeling has been derived by this university and provided a new explanation for a surprising persistence of this type of altruistic behavior amongst the animals. Now there could be a question, why is this flavor of altruism displayed and why is it not always obvious and consistent? Scientific research seems to answer this with new observational and computational technologies that leads to the revelation that there is a tremendous amount of cooperation in nature. In fact, cooperation is one of the most beneficial behaviors on earth, which is just not unique to the humans, but also unique to the animal and even plant kingdom. Cooperation is part of the nature down to the cellular level. We literally wouldn't be here otherwise. In fact, the humans, the plants, and the animals have cells that have been, according to the university's findings, they have been designed to cooperate or have learned to cooperate from a long time now. Together they form the multicellular organisms and thereby enhancing the chances of individual cell replication and survival in that process. From these biological blocks, cooperation prevails at every level of animal kingdom, and there seems to be many special species as well. So mathematical biologists, after the study on swarming animals like birds, fish, locusts, identified a pattern of behavior controlled by what seems like a single brain. So the slow video, but what is displaying is what you must also have observed is the birds. It's unfortunate, but it's birds that are flying in flock. They do the murmur, and they fly in unison. It appears as if there is a single brain that is controlling this flock of birds. There is a captain or a leader that is directing the direction, but there is no leader in this flock. There is no single brain. All of these birds together form a brain and cooperate and direct themselves to a destiny. In fact, they do this only to escape a predator. Amongst this flock of birds, actually there is a predator trying to take one bird. But in this continuous fast movements, they wouldn't allow even a single bird to be hunted in the sky. So that's the kind of cooperation they have. And another example is the ants. Ants, for instance, can develop almost instantly a 3-lane two-way traffic system to procure food. Currently, as I speak, computer robotic algorithms are being derived based on ant behavior and ant cooperating models. And these algorithms will be applied on creating optimal road traffic systems with telematics, and in near future where the cars and vehicles on the road would communicate with each other, driven by artificial intelligence. Now, with reference to altruism and self-sacrifice, ants have displayed exemplary courage in preemptive action against the external threat to their nest. During winter at sunset, they have to close the mouth of the nest in order to save the thousands and lakhs of animals inside the nest. So a few ants remain outside the nest. They kick in the sand and close the nest. But in the process, some of the ants remain outside the nest and they get exposed to the severe winter winds. In the morning, they are not seen. Either they are blown away by the strong winter wind or they drop dead, frozen. This happens each night, and a few ants die every night. This is not a chance or an accident, but it is done by a choice. So, insect biologist in this context from the University of Sussex, Mr. Francis Reitnix, I quote, said, I quote, "In a colony of many thousands of workers, losing a few workers each evening to improve the nest defense would be favored by a natural selection. Perhaps this cooperative traits in various living forms could be termed as a continuous call of unity and a network of oneness from nature. It is as if the divine intelligence has decentralized itself to enable a self-sufficient function. The ant behavior is just a reflection or the tip of the iceberg of that fact, and the science has seen it well. Now, even amongst the humans, we see people donating their blood, donating their kidneys or organs, and show different types of benevolence. Initially, they could be limited to their family, friends, or even to sometimes strangers as well. Now, why is this not consistent with every living being, and why is it not consistent always? What looks like an inconsistency may be attributed to the faintness in the reception of the call. And on many occasions, altruism for others ends when one's own subject is under danger, risk, discomfort. So for this inconsistency, and as example, since the videos are not working, I would give my own self as an example. I was a blood donor, a regular blood donor, belonging to a very rare category of group A1 negative. My blood was most sought after. I used to donate blood for victims of accident, trauma, and operations, and I felt very proud about it. I thought I was one of the best altruists. Not until a day when I had to walk into a very special, a very advanced, sophisticated hospital when there is a call. When I was giving the blood, the moment the blood was out of my body in that hospital, it started freezing. It coagulated very fast. And eventually the blood donation failed that day. I was a little disappointed, went back. Couple of weeks there was one more call because the donation failed. They could call me fast. In 2 weeks I went there, the same hospital. That would fail again, the donation fails again. But then there were certain tests done by the doctors, the bleeding time, the clotting time, whatever. Clinically, I was perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with me. But the blood out of my body wouldn't behave, just wouldn't behave. So the third occasion, it was very critical, where the patient was in a critical stage, they called upon me again within a month. Then the senior doctors converged when it failed, and they started doing different experiments. They were puncturing my veins and taking different alternatives. They were using anticoagulants in the tubes, whatnot. I was a little, anxious now, because not only the pain, but also the discomfort. I could see the blood freezing even at the tip of the needle. When the doctor said, "One last experiment, can you cooperate?" I said no. I walked away from it because I was under the threat. I could see that if I was thinking weird things, if the blood clot re-entered, what if it re-entered my body? What if it caused a heart attack? The doctors were there, but I was under risk. I was presuming that I was under great danger. I thought it was a risk not necessary for me to take. And I walked away. Later on, it was clarified that my type of body is such that if I am exposed to low temperatures, the blood would coagulate fast, which is what happened in a sophisticated hospitals where extreme air conditioning is there, which was not the case earlier. But at the time of the crucial point when I had to cooperate, because I was subjected to threat, anxiety, risk, and I had my own family, I had my child then, I said, this is a risk I don't want to take. I'm a bad example, please do not emulate me. But there are a large number of people who do not miss a chance to serve and end up sacrificing, showing extreme sense of altruism. The degree of altruism for some may be limited to their family circles or close friends, but with certain unique individuals, the circle of compassion grows larger. And when those unique individuals, when they are inquired, why are they so special? Why are they unique? they would always say, they are not special, I'm not special, I'm not unique, I'm as simple or equal as anybody else. In fact, this unique simplicity, this humility, pushes them from the center stage, and the circle of their benevolence expands. And there are many of such individuals who embrace several more communities. One of such prominent personalities was our Dr. Annie Besant, who initially contributed her life to political reforms, but later on she extended her energies more to various social and other economic virtues. She saw the suffering of the working woman in terrible conditions, and she was the first one to raise her voice, fight against them, taking the risks, very severe risks in those days. And she had the courage, always. Annie Besant had many skills of oration, articulation, presentation, administration, and meticulous planning. She discovered many more latent skills in her, and she nurtured upon them, developed upon them, and then only to give it back to the society and community. In fact, when she spoke in public, it is said that she used to weave a spell on her audience. Her ability to initiate and oversee several movements in quick span of time, one after another, was fascinating and even a puzzle to the most modern management techniques, especially in those days where we don't have this technology, where we don't have this telecommunication network. She managed to do so many things, but we have all of them, but we seem to struggle a little. So in order to work well and contribute, it is important that we have the right level of skills, and especially in the current world. Before I dwell on the need to nourish the skills that we need to take up any work for the society, let me actually categorize the entire ecosystem of professionals into three types. In the first category, we can see individuals who acquire, it froze actually, okay. We see individuals who go after education, acquire their skills, and get into different types of occupations and enjoy their work. But along with that, they also have, they develop certain wants, such as the reward, recognition, revenue, status, and even power. The second category of the professional are those who enjoy their work, but they're not after this recognition, rewards, or revenues, but they enjoy their work, they give their best into the work, and they just live in their world alone. Examples could be the singers, painters, artists who love their job. The third category of those people or professionals are those who enjoy their work also. They look as if they are very ambitious. They appear as if they are really behind these material things, but they acquire their skills and then they will give it back to the society for the humanity. Their endeavors and their efforts all are dedicated for a cause. When such a dedication, without an iota of selfishness, it is almost certain that at all times a divine blessing descends on those people who are totally selfless. And those people receive more energy, more work, and more skills. And this is what happened with many altruistic leaders in the past, and definitely so with our beloved leader Annie Besant. In fact, these principal messages have been drafted well in the ritual of the mystic star, which you have witnessed a couple of days back. And this was under the guidance of Dr. Annie Besant, written by, of course, Brother C. Rasa. The ceremony points out that people can find a path to the supreme reality, not only by participating in different activities of their religion in daily life, but also religiously discharging their duties of their profession, provided one always identifies oneself with the ideal behind the profession. The professional services that are rendered in the current day are wanting for this flavor, even if they are rendered for a price. The element of service without exploitation, deceit, extortion, in some form or the other, seems to be a rare commodity. Now, having said that, let me take one step back from the stage of employment to the stage of education. So it is important that we have the right values and right value-based education. So Dr. Annie Besant had this in mind and spent a lot of energy in this direction and formed the Central Hindu College. Yeah. The ideal was to train the youth for the service of the motherland. And Dr. Besant also was a great natural leader. Leadership is a matter of choice, it's not a rank. And many senior people in the business organizations are not leaders. They are mere authorities by the virtue of the rank. And the employees of the organization do not follow them in spirit. They only follow their instructions because of the standard protocols. But there are maybe many employees below in the organization who are not authorities by their rank, but they carry themselves with such true leadership qualities that other employees have no problem in emulating them or following them in spirit. This is because the natural leaders inspire their fellow men to follow a path for a cause. Dr. Besant had several of these altruistic causes, inspired several lakhs and thousands of people, not only in India, but the world over, and they all followed her in spirit. So, brethren, the real work is not just to awaken and look at ourselves and see this unique unity of life in nature, but it's also important to realize that one has to awaken the true altruistic leader who is residing in all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinay, Patri. Taking up this from the animal kingdom to the human altruistic. I can guess that you had much more to say. Our next speaker is Ángeles Torra Buron. She was born in Barcelona, Spain, into a theosophical family in 1952. Professionally, she has been a high school teacher for 37 years. Presently, she is retired from her job as a teacher, thus dedicating full time to the theosophical work. She is the General Secretary of the Spanish section. In the Theosophical Society, she was active in the European Federation of Young Theosophists in 1970s. Later, she was vice president of the Spanish section and was a member of the National Executive Committee as well. For a short period, she was a member of the executive of the European Federation. Presently, she is the General Secretary of the Spanish section, as mentioned. This year, August, the 38th European Congress was held in Barcelona, and under her guidance for the arrangements in the Spanish section, the Congress was just a great event and a memorable event for those who attended. Ángeles is a very warm-hearted and caring person. I am so happy to invite her to speak to us.
Thank you, Marja, for your sweet words. Friends, I have a dream. One day, our life record will be all written up with noble deeds, days well spent, years of holy striving. And we will have won our way ever upward to the higher planes of spiritual consciousness. These are the recommendations of Mahatma KH that I accept as my dream to achieve. Also, the Mahachohan gives us hints about what to do and how to act. In his letter, he summons theosophists to popularize the knowledge of theosophy, not with an individual selfish purpose, but with the self-sacrificing pursuit of the best means to lead on the right path our neighbor, to cause as many of our fellow creatures as we possibly can to benefit by it. And that is what constitutes the true theosophist. In today's world, justice is disregarded and honor and mercy are both flung to the winds. Against the struggle for life, compassion is necessary. It is not an emotional compassion. It goes beyond emotions. It is a compassion and a love that come from Buddhi, the higher level that transmits the highest in our being, and that deals with something deeper than the material and emotional needs of the world. The general title of this intervention is Altruistic Work of Today in the Footsteps of Annie Besant. I'm not going to give you the definition of the dictionaries because they have already been given. But let's say that all definitions generally revolve around a moral obligation to benefit others or the pronouncement of moral value in serving others rather than oneself. Altruistic people have always sacrificed their own comfort and welfare for those who suffer injustice and endure miserable living conditions. There is an altruism which embraces that other altruism which attends the material needs. That greater altruism has been obvious in the life of historical characters who gave their life for their ideal. Real altruistic people do all this without the feeling of bringing a sacrifice, because they themselves are altruistic. Through their effort and their struggle for what they considered fair and just, they brought about important changes in the whole society. Material changes, it's true, but mainly changes of a deeper meaning, because they made an impact at the level of the collective mind. Annie Besant clearly saw that life's conditions for many people in her time were unfair. She thought it was necessary to apply all her efforts towards a change in the mentality of the Victorian society, which was not at all fair, especially for women. From the very beginning, she was never considered her own comfort and welfare. The most important thing for her was to open the mind of the society to another way of thinking, which would allow people to be liberated from an unfair social and physical slavery and dependency. All her efforts in her lifetime were addressed to this change in mentality, to an awareness of the need to question the establishment and to have the courage to face the changes it implied. She never gave in to fear. fear of people's opinion, or fear of the consequences of her struggle. She was willing to assume the consequences of her actions. She accepted the loss of her children's custody, her own imprisonment for political activism, and her bad reputation. And she took part in a collective movement that contributed to change the world. If we are to have a better society, we need to have a long-term vision, a long-term purpose and thought. This means teaching one human generation after another human generation. And Annie Besant had this long-term vision for every aspect of life: welfare for all, education for all, awareness for all, always throughout an altruistic and theosophical view and action. And so had others, such as Martin Luther King later, who had his dream. He wanted that dream to become a reality and not just a utopia. He fought for the rights of a group of people submitted to continuous injustice and abuse. He directed all his efforts to improve the future of humanity. In achieving equality for all the citizens of the US, he was not only dignifying the life of a very important part of the American population that lived as outcasts, but he was also offering the other part the opportunity to open up with generosity and to grow internally in the global movement towards equality and fraternity. Martin Luther King was never deterred by fear. He was willing to accept the consequences of his acts. He had a dream. He fought for it. He paid with his life, but he contributed to change the world. Mahatma Gandhi was another one of these altruistic people, more interested in people's welfare than in his own. We all know what he achieved with his attitude and effort to lead a fair life according to the dictates of truth. He was never deterred by fear neither. He accepted the consequences of his actions to the end, and he also contributed greatly to change the world. Before them, some others too, in the theosophical arena, were examples of courage, lack of fear, and acceptance of their own actions. HPB, Alcott, Judge, we all know that they also proved that it was possible to contribute to the change in mentality of humanity. That change is not brought about globally at once. It takes years for it to come to light. But in the end, the examples of devotion in those altruistic lives have a big impact and touch a very inner part in the people willing to look, listen, and change. These people constitute the avant-garde, very often unknown, who, through their attitude, example, and fidelity to their ideals, have also sacrificed their own welfare for the others' welfare, and who, in their turn, will also touch many others. This is how the global mentality of humanity can be changed. Examples such as Annie Besant, Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, Blavatsky, Alcott, Judge tell us about those hearts which beat for everyone. Their compassion was not something soft or superficial. Their effort addressed an inner transformation which necessarily preceded an outer transformation. We are told that evolution and awakening come from within. So, this transformation occurs first in our inner core, and the teachings become thus compassion, coming from Buddhi, which inspires those who can perceive it. Coming back to the altruistic work, we should ask ourselves this question: what should the future be like? From a theosophical perspective, the duty of an organization like ours should certainly support others, not only by helping them solve their urgent needs, but also by working on securing their long-term needs and development as well. Without forgetting the primary needs, we should think of a long-term altruism, including in that long term, maybe our next lifetime. As theosophists, we should be long-term thinkers and develop our inner powers, the power of compassion, love, and understanding, the power conferred by the knowledge of the supreme unity of all. We have been told to lead our neighbor on the right path and help as many of our fellow creatures as we possibly can benefit from the knowledge of theosophy. For this, we need to work first on ourselves, recognizing our true self in a transcendental divine life. And then, out of altruism, we must strive to make other people see that truth. Annie Besant did. The compilation of her work shows her excellent skills and ability to communicate. She touched many hearts and minds, changing their lives and changing the world. As theosophists, our endeavor should point at the development of that part that we are taking with us to the next life, and help others do the same by working on the higher part of our thinking and transforming these teachings into a mental and moral attitude, which will have a repercussion in our future, both in this present life and certainly in the next one, by recognizing our true self in a transcendental divine life, striving to make other people see that truth, recognizing the reality of that transcendental self in every human being. Regarding the scientific field, nowadays, scientific discoveries provide us with new means of investigation and advance. We are ready to apply those technical and scientific changes that are taking place in the present world. The need to have an ethical and moral attitude to deal with them should be taken into account. Or, to say it otherwise, our moral and ethical attitude is to be in synchronization with the technical developments, since generally our modern inventions do not seem to be done with the proper mentality. Let me tell you about Spain again. What do you expect? I come from it. In the last century, during the 20s and the 30s, the young theosophists belonging to the section formed a group called Idealistas Prácticos, which means the practical idealist people. Their practicality made them reach others to benefit from the knowledge of theosophy. Their idealism made them endure all the difficulties that came later with the Civil War, without losing the aspiration of their inner growth and awareness. They all had a dream. They all contributed to change the world. Before finishing, let me quote again the thought that I already quoted at the beginning, conveyed by Mahatma K.H. It's in the Daily Meditations in October 10th, and it's one of my favorite. It says, "There are innumerable pages of your life record still to be written up. Fair and blank they are as yet. Child of your race and of your age, seize the diamond pen and inscribe them with the history of noble deeds, days well spent, years of holy striving. So will you win your way ever upward to the higher planes of spiritual consciousness. Friends, let's try to be practical and idealist at the same time. Altruism is the main ingredient for this. Let's try to fill in our life record pages with noble deeds and holy striving. No matter what people say, pointing always to the ideal of human progress and perfection that the secret science describes and teaches, and we will thus reach those planes where one goes beyond knowledge towards the eternal. Let's not lose that unique aspiration which comes from Buddhi. Let it be with us in our pilgrimage and in the ever more glorious and limitless development of our true self. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angeles, for bringing us and elaborating the big dream which we need to use with our will. This concludes our symposium session. And just to remind that, well, not remind, but we will meet again in the panel this afternoon at 3 o'clock. All are welcome. Have a nice day.